Welcome to this online healing retreat. Our program starts shortly. First, create your sacred space and listen to this music from the universe, literally created by the universe as mathematical equations were assigned to musical notes. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Our program starts shortly. Hello and welcome to this online healing retreat with Dr. Jean Logan. This is book number 3 with Jean Logan, and we are thanking you for joining us. And even if you're listening to this recording later or to this program in the recording later, we invite you to sit back and enjoy and follow along with us. Let's welcome our co-host today, Jean Logan. Hello, Dr. Jean. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I am so honored to be here, Loren, and I want to thank you so much for having me here. This is a wonderful opportunity.
Well, this is a wonderful opportunity because these glyphs, we have reports that come in, and they are remarkable how people are using these in their life. And this third book of yours is quite remarkable, symbol of the dawn. And there are beautiful glyphs and amazing glyphs that are included in this. So let's just go ahead and get started because we're going to go through each one, and we invite you listening to either watch the screen, or if you're going to listen to the MP3 of this, you can follow along in your PDF book. So Jean, welcome. Any update on this work that you'd like to begin with?
No, I think we'll just go ahead and start and go one at a time, and I'll explain. I'll kind of summarize some important issues as we go along.
Okay, so let's get started.
Okay, this is the cucumber beetle. I was asked to do this by an organic grower in the area here, and so I created it just to eradicate them. And what he did was we put them in glass jars out in his crop areas, and he felt like they were really working. But at the end of his growing season, what did happen is he lost a lot of them to squash borers. So that's going to be another one I do next. And what I was told, some of the insect ones worked well, but others was cautioned that I had to remember to respect the insects. So as we go along, one of the things we have to understand is that we need to honor all life forms. So when I created the insect ones for the insects, I had to tell them to repel them and to honor their existence. So this particular glyph I did not, but it seemed to work anyway. So I'll just explain that as we move along.
Okay.
We can go to the, okay.
There we go.
And now this was the termite one. And what happens in my life is I will be given a challenge. I will be given an illness or some symptoms, and then I will resolve that with a glyph. In this case, I got termites in the walls down in my apartment downstairs. And so I really had to work on this. I created more than one glyph and trying to understand why it didn't seem to work at first. But I realized there I had to honor their purpose. Termites actually have an important reason for their existence. If we didn't have termites, the woods would be full of dead wood that just sitting there, because the termites do serve a valuable function until they get in your house. And with the glyph, we had to also remove any energetic issues that the person has with their house, and then tell the termites to leave or they will be eradicated. So it did not happen right away. Within 2 weeks, the termites were gone. So that's an interesting thing to note.
Yes, because you weren't it wasn't like pesticide or they were dying, but they were asked to leave.
Right. And one of the reasons I know that I'm here is we need to get the chemicals off the earth. The chemicals are harming our bees, they're harming our children, they're harming our bodies, they're harming the earth. And I feel our calling is to find other ways of dealing with the insects and other things, rodents.
Okay. Well, I didn't see one for a mosquito. Or is that in an earlier book? What about mosquitoes with West Nile virus?
I do have one. I created a joint one for mosquito and fleas.
Okay.
I haven't tested that out yet.
Interesting. So again, it would be like a glyph that would repel instead of, it would just send it to its own little area, keep it away from you. Mm-hmm.
Right, and I think, though, we need some guidance on that. Sometimes I wonder, do we really need things like mosquitoes and chiggers? I don't really know.
Okay.
I'll ask them for some guidance. I found that I have a team of 12 guides that I work for, and so I'm sure they can come up with some answers for me.
That's interesting. And so you tap in and you hear the answers and, okay, higher dimensional guides.
Right.
All right.
Now this one I did just for myself, and I was doing this to help us with our wrinkles, with our, I rejuvenate the facial skin, and I created it some time ago, but I just never had time to really work with it. When I would hold it against my face, I could feel like, something was pulsing there. And I didn't work with it very much, but then I was told, yeah, go ahead and put it in the book because it does work, and a lot of women will want it. But there's one thing, there'll be another one. We want to talk about both of them right now, and that's the rejuvenation one. The important thing to remember is that our mind is what controls everything. So if we're using this to rejuvenate our skin, or if we're using the regeneration glyph, our mind is the most powerful thing. So if you say about something, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, it's not going to work, then it will not work. If you look in the mirror and you say, oh, I'm getting older, you have to give up this idea that you are aging. Aging is a lie we bought into. We age ourselves with our mind. we're believing what we've been programmed to believe. And so it's important, if you want to rejuvenate yourself or rejuvenate your skin, that you have to let go of that belief. And it's difficult to do because the mirror lies. The mirror shows you who you thought you were yesterday. And you have to think about and create who you want to be tomorrow. So don't look at wrinkles and say, I'm getting older. You have to see yourself as where you want to be and try your best to focus on that. Okay?
That's a good reminder, yet it's challenging. Okay, so when we look in the
Right.
mirror and, okay, nice reminder.
Now this one I created for a lady who was doing, she was a psychic surgeon, and she would work on her clients, and she said she had a problem with, she was feeling, she wanted to ground herself afterward, and that's really what it's for. This is especially for healers who work on clients, and I think healers out there will understand where this is, and that need to come back down to earth and to ground themselves. And so this is to restore the energetic balance after you've been working on clients.
Okay.
Now this one I created some time ago too. It was to resolve problems with abscess and with cavities and so forth. And so I had one issue. I have a lot of crowns. I was raised at a time when parents didn't concern themselves with their children's teeth, and so I have a lot of crowns, and I had a lot of pain underneath the crowns, and when I started using it, the pain went away. And I was told by my guides at that time that I needed to have the tooth pulled, but I thought, oh, I was stubborn. I felt like this would work, and so I created it, and that was a couple years ago, and I still have that, and I'm doing fine. I have not had to have any teeth pulled, and I'm determined the next glyph that I will create will be one to regrow teeth, because we have that power too. But this one will help, but it's important to remember diet is primary. The reason we have problems with our teeth is because of poor diet. And I'm not talking about people not having enough money, it's eating the wrong food. So it's important that you work on your diet, because if you're trying to use a glyph to heal a tooth and eating a chocolate cake every day and candy, it's not going to work.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So then maybe we wouldn't need a crown if we work with these glyphs.
Right, the glyphs and their diet, right.
And the diet, okay.
The diet is key. It is very important. This is oxygen, and I created that. I don't remember why I created it. I made it some time ago, and when I first used it, I would put it on the back of my heart chakra before I went to bed, and when I got up, I was dizzy, just like when if you took many, many deep breaths, how it would make you dizzy. And so I kind of shelved it for a while. I didn't know if it had much purpose, but then when I created the third book, I was told, yes, put it in, it will help some people. So this will add a little bit of oxygen to their bodies.
Mm-hmm. A couple of questions are coming in. If you're taping a glyph to your body, is the glyph facing you or away from you?
I use it facing me, and I tell people have it facing your body, but when I hold them between my hands, and that's one thing that's always interesting, when you're lying in bed quietly, especially when you first wake up in the morning, if you take one and put it between your hands and then kind of put it on your face like in a now I lay me down to sleep fashion, I will feel the energy going up both arms. So it actually works either way.
You know what I'd like to share too, on a personal note, is I've woken up in the middle of the night and I've thought of these glyphs, and I can feel just that connection with my visual. Isn't that interesting? But that's because I've been working with
Yes,
them as
yes.
well. So I think
Hmm.
once we work with them, we can connect like that. Okay. Another question, where would you place the tooth glyph?
I put it out of convenience. I take some glyphs and I wrap them in a soft cotton cloth and I put them behind my bra, and I have soft cotton bras that I can wear at night that are comfortable. I do that just for comfort. But if I were putting it on the back of the neck, might be an area. Another place you might consider is right under, if you're not going anywhere, right under the ear. If you reach up and you'll feel like a little depression right under the ear where your jaw starts right there. That would probably be a good idea.
Okay. Other questions we'll get to in just a bit.
Now this one I created, again, I feel to stop the destruction of our forests. We have so many trees that are dying of various insects. And in this southeast area of the United States, we have hemlock trees that were infested with this type of aphid. I'm sure they imported that from somewhere. Anyway, this aphid was killing. If you went to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, you could see the devastation, dead trees lying everywhere. And so I created this glyph to stop that disease, and this was my second attempt. And it works, can work on a picture of a tree, but I also could take the whole page of a glyphs and put it on a copy of the plat of the land. It took me about 5 or 6 years to develop this. And so in that time, I live on about 100 acres of land. In that time, I lost many of the large trees, but all of the younger trees and some even of the middle size that were diseased are completely clear of this disease. So it has been successful. It has just taken some time, but it's for anybody who has any trees of like this kind, it will work. And they can use it, either put it on a picture. You could also laminate one and hang it right on the tree.
Beautiful. And a question coming in, what do the Hebrew letters and words mean?
The Hebrew letters are the name of God in Hebrew.
Okay.
This one was supposed to have made it into the second book, and I forgot somehow. This is for the esophagus, to heal the esophagus for whatever reason. But one common thing, as some people get older, they develop scar tissue where the esophagus meets the stomach from acid reflux. And so what this will do, if that becomes a problem, the treatment for that is very uncomfortable, where they stick something down your throat and want to stretch that, and oh, I don't even want to think about it. But if used consistently, if a person has that problem with scar tissue, it will gradually remove that scar tissue. And it should help other esophagus problems too. Now, it's not, I don't know if it's programmed for malignancy, but I'm going to go ahead and check that out and add that too, because I'm often on Facebook on one of the groups there for cancer alternative treatments, and I see that esophageal cancer malignancy is a common issue, so I'm going to go ahead and add that if it's not in there already.
Beautiful.
This is to save the bats. Again, in this part of the country, our bats are dying in droves. They're dying of what's called a white nose fungus that is literally suffocating them. And so this glyph is designed to resolve that. And what people have been doing, and somebody sent me a picture of one, they had it laminated and they put it on their bat house. If it's possible for anybody to get it into where their bats are, where you in a cave, or again, just put it over, let's say that you had a picture of a certain cave. Carlsbad's Cabins probably wouldn't. I don't know if they have it out there. But here in the East, if there's any cave pictures, the power of your mind is tremendous. If you just hang it outside your door on your porch somewhere, and you intend the frequency and the programming of this glyph go throughout the world, whatever energy you've got in your power of intention, that energy will go out there. Oh, this one was one of my first. This was one of my first successes with insects. I had a plant with. Oh, now my mind goes blank. What is that one called? Scale. Okay, scale. Scale on plants. They look like little barnacles or little tiny turtle shells, and it is a serious disease. And I went and asked at the nursery how to get rid of it, and she said, throw the plant away, burn it. It was a very serious and difficult, almost impossible to resolve. You can spray it with sulfur, but that is like 90% effective and it comes back. So I put it on a pot where these were 2 containers that had a plant with it on. And after a couple of weeks, I didn't see any improvement, and I just put them aside and quarantined them. And about a month later, I looked, and all of the scales were just skeletons. There was nothing left. It was completely healed the plant.
Wow.
So that was one of my biggest successes. So I did add aphids to that as well. So that's where, again, I would laminate that and put it in the garden.
Wow, that's remarkable.
This is another tree disease. There's a disease that's killing the black locust here in this part of the country. And so I did that to resolve the problem with the black locust. I just recently completed that one. And so I'm really still testing it out, but I have no doubt it'll work because I use the same idea I did with the hemlocks. That's for wasps and hornets. I wanted to double check because it looks a lot like the yellow jacket. And this is one also I had to be very careful. They don't, when I work with these glyphs, when I create them, then I empower them and I call in all the company of heaven. I use a CD from Tom Kenyon to call in all the powers that be. And if they don't like what I'm doing, they will not support me. So if I go at it with the idea of kill, 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 they're not happy about that. And so when I tried to empower one glyph that just was, get rid of this, they said, be kind. And it's hard for us to understand why we should be kind to wasps or to yellow jackets who are really can be vicious. But they want us to understand we need to respect all of nature. So this one is telling them to stay away. This works best. I have places where they would always nest inside my wood box and under my umbrella on my table out on the deck. And when I put it there, they stayed away. So I have it on the inside of my windows to keep them off of my deck and away from the immediate area.
Isn't that amazing? Insecticide-free glyphs. These are really good for working with the planet. Beautiful, Jean.
Thank you. This one was to heal the earth. I was asked to do that years ago, and I thought, well, how was that going to work? And I really procrastinated. And then someone called me, Kathy True called me, and she says, I'm getting a message. You're supposed to make a glyph to heal the earth. And I thought, well, I guess they're trying to reach me one way or the other. But I wanted to tell a story. You see the name Jessie up at the top. I had a little black dog who was a bless her heart, I loved her dearly, but she was a wanderer. If she got a chance to run off, and she would encourage my other dog to run off. And finally, one time they went on a trip, and she did not return. And I called an animal communicator, and he said she'd been hit by a truck. And he talked to her, and she said that she saw me drawing pictures, and would I please draw one for her. So this one I created for Jessie because she liked to roam the earth. She just was a wanderer.
So we could use this for any intention that we want to send forth to.
Right. That one I would laminate, and I would hang it out on the porch or anywhere you want, and just, again, like what you do with the bats and the other trees, you just intend the energy go out as far and wide. It will also heal the waters of the earth, and it is a very powerful glyph. Like I said, all the powers of heaven are with me, sending the energy behind this. So it's just, these are not my glyphs. These are not coming from me.
Okay, a couple questions. Notice up at the top and the bottom, there's a little break in the outer line. Is that intentional?
No, not really, and it's not really important. It's
okay, okay. And then someone is asking, Beth is asking, can she take these and embroider them on material?
The energy is actually, this is like a language, and the energy is attached to the figure. So if she wanted to embroider something like that, it would have to be empowered. And she could do that herself. And we have to realize we all have the power. I don't have more power than anybody else. And if you invite all the company of heaven to assist you, it will work, but you must believe in your power. They will assist you. So if you made one, an embroidered one, and that would be great, it'd be beautiful on a pillow or something, it would be very nice, but you would have to empower it because the energy is attached to the actual image, to the lines, to each little line. If you took white out and you whited out two of the little arrows, it would not work. The glyph would not work.
Interesting. Okay. And so then the answer, then her next question is, do you need to include the Hebrew letters?
Well, if you were going to do that, yes, I would. I definitely would. I had one incident where I got a deep wound on my leg where a log hit my leg, and I had two glyphs on, one to speed up the healing and one to stop the infection. And after a while, a couple of days, I noticed it got infected anyway, and I thought, well, why is this? Why didn't that glyph to stop the infection work? So I took it off and I looked at it, and some water had splashed on, and a couple of the little spots, the little designs, had been obliterated. And so that stopped that glyph from working. So these things are sensitive to damage. So if they're ever damaged, tear them up and throw them away.
Even a wrinkle, if it got folded in half, would you say?
I use them even though they're wrinkled. I see how bad is the damage. Does it, if it's just a piece of paper, if you can make another copy, that's fine, but I've used them wrinkled and they seem to work. So I think it just depends upon how much damage or intend it work. Let's face it, we all have the power. Say, I intend that this is, it's fully powerful.
Okay. Moving on.
Oh, this one. This one is to heal the damaged brain. And there's a story that goes with this one, too. The little dog I had that I was telling you about before, Jessie. We got her from the Humane Society. And after we got her, we noticed she would get car sick every single time we'd go down the road. She would get sick and start throwing up. And I tried creating a couple different glyphs to balance the equilibrium, another to emulate the frequency of Dramamine, which would work when I'd hold her, but the minute I'd put her back with the other dog, with Roscoe, she would start throwing up again. So I asked, and I said, what is the problem here? Why can't I heal this dog? And I got that she had brain damage from starvation and dehydration as a puppy, and that I could heal her if I wrote a glyph that would resolve the damage on that part of her brain. But I had to do it, I had to know what part, and I said, well, how would I know that? Do I dowse? And the answer I got was, I will tell you if you ask. And that was a good lesson. All you need to do is ask. We have to ask. We have to remember to ask. So I said, well, I'm asking, and I got that it was the cerebellum. And so I created that glyph for the cerebellum. I believe that was the one. And we put it on the top of her head. And she looked at her eyes, kind of rolled around like, what is going on here? Because she could feel it doing something. But it's never painful. But we put it on her every night for 2 weeks. She was about 90% better. Then we put it on another 2 weeks, and she never got car sick again, which shows you can heal the damaged brain. So I went back. That was not this glyph. I redid the glyph, and I was guided to do it with this image. And I wrote like a computer program for every part of the brain. If this, then do this. If that part, do this. So there's like a computer program with it where it goes at one part of the brain of another. So this will heal almost any area of a damaged brain, provided that it is not interfering. You can never interfere with someone's path. So if someone has come in to live in a damaged condition, or if they have come in to depart early, you cannot override that path. But if it's with the soul's permission, and when using this glyph, always state that with permission from the soul, or ask permission from the soul, whichever works, before you can do anything. You cannot interfere in somebody else's path. But I'm sure, I have no doubt, that this would help those football players and boxers who are dying because of the brain damage they get.
Wonderful work. Incredible. Again, those black letters off to the side there. There's another question. What are those? And those are the Hebrew letters for God.
Right.
All right. The next. Oh, and then here's a funny question. Karen asks, and we have thought about this, have you ever thought about temporary skin tattoos? There it is again, Jean. We'll have to put together a kit on that. I know the quantity.
Tattoos like. Yes, I've thought about that before, and yes, I think that's a good idea. I think it'd be a great idea. It just seems like I can only do so much at one time, but I would definitely like to do it.
Yeah, so stay tuned, everyone. That's up and coming. Those will be really cool, Jane. We'll talk about that, too. That's wonderful. All right, so does this glyph work on Alzheimer's?
I had a dog who had, we'll call it dementia, and he was defecating in the house, and he just looked like he was totally out of it. He just unresponsive. It was rather pitiful, and so I put on this glyph on the top. I used a teddy bear so I could do it remotely. I put that glyph on the top of his crown chakra. I also put the glyph from book 1 for detoxification, because the idea that we understand that aluminum may be a part of the problem with Alzheimer's. So if you use that detoxification glyph on the crown, that will remove the aluminum. And then I added one more glyph to that. I don't recall what that glyph was at this moment. Circulation, probably. Anyway, he never defecated in the house again, and within 2 days I saw he was totally responsive. He was just back to his normal self.
Ooh.
So would it work on a human? I don't see why not.
Yeah, and the thing to remind us is it can't hurt.
Right. There is never any wrong way to use these glyphs. It's just like the Bach flower remedies. The worst that can happen is nothing.
Mm.
This one here is for energetic balance for there was a man, oh, I cannot remember his name, who created a machine who said that every cell in the body has a certain amount of light. And sometimes some cells had too much and some had too little. And he created a contraption that would balance that out. And so I asked, can I do that with a glyph? And I got, yes, I can. So what this will do, and this is a powerful glyph, this is a great glyph, and it will go ahead and it will resolve that any imbalance. And it's also programmed to remove chakra linking that is not for the highest good. Chakra linking can be a very distressing thing. Some people, I remember reading, some woman wrote, said, how can I chakra link with someone? And someone wrote back, well, I don't know why you'd want to. And I agree with that. To deliberately have the idea of chakra linking, I don't think is a good idea, because you always want to be your own person. But oftentimes in relationship, you become linked with someone. I just received a message from someone in Canada. She said she went out to eat at a restaurant for lunch, and she saw an old boyfriend, and she just got all hot and sweaty. Her heart was pounding, and she was just a basket case. And so I said, use that glyph to remove the chakra linking, because that's what happens when you get chakra linked, and it will help resolve that. It'll help letting go of old patterns and old relationships. Another beetle or bug, I think that's what the Mexican bean beetle. Yes, okay. Yeah, we'll just like the cucumber beetle. One could put that in a jar or laminate it and put it in the garden if one has a problem with Mexican. Somebody told me they had a big issue with one of the organic growers, so I created that for him, and it seemed to work for him.
Okay, there's a question coming up about when we use some of these glyphs in the garden. Does your guidance tell you how many glyphs to use in a garden space if you're treating for insect problems?
I would just use the power of intention to send it out a certain way, like 30 feet or whatever works for you. And this is going to have to be a little trial and error. This is something new that we've never done before, to try and get the balance of how far. And certainly a picture on a piece of paper is not the best idea, but it's where we start. I think in time I would have to find something imprinted in plastic or some material that would be more substantial, that would last. So I would say I would start with 10 feet and see how that works. Now this one worked really well. This is for mildew. I have a problem where I have Japanese honeysuckles and phlox that would get mildewed, and I put that out there in a jar, and it worked real well. But it's best if you start right away. If you've got phlox out there and then you know they're going to get mildewed, put it out there before, because I would always be running out there after the poor plant was half destroyed, and it stopped the mildew, but was damaged, and that was it. But it did work. And I also included tomato blight when I reprogrammed it and added tomato blight. I don't think that was quite as successful, but I don't really know. I don't grow tomatoes. The only ones I had were 2 little volunteers that came up the back door. So I would just watch and see how it does. And I would love to hear from anybody as you try these. If they work, I want to know about it. If they don't work, I want to know about it. It helps me to know when people don't have success as much as they do, because I can always go back to the drawing board and ask the guys, let's talk about this again. what can we do and how can we fix it. This is metamorphosis. I have about 2 or 3 of these glyphs as we go along overall with the 3 books. And this is to help us remove what is holding us back, to let go of the cocoon, the caterpillar, and move out so we can spread our wings as a butterfly. And when I first created it, I thought, well, is it doing anything? But then I held it between my hands, and I could feel it doing something in my body. So you don't awake the next day a completely different person, but each one takes a little bit off and a little bit off of what is holding us back.
So Althea has a question earlier that says, is there a glyph to remove issues around personal creativity, like low self-esteem, and replace with integrated empowerment?
That's in the first book. To low self-esteem. Yes, it is. In the first book, there's one to remove, and sometimes I didn't even have just a word. I would remove, I am not worthy, I can't do it. I put phrases in there and replace that with confidence and courage. Yes, there's several. There's about 3 of them in the first book that have different areas that of fears and things that were holding them back like that.
Yeah, and so for those who may be new to your work, we can just say that books 1 and 2, they really are progressive. Book 1 is the foundation, and then book 2 is more
right.
of the health, and then this one. So for those who started with book 3, we'll put together a special upgrade to get the other 2. That's a simple thing we'll send out. Okay. Wonderful.
Right.
Okay, here's the next.
Good idea.
Yes.
Oh, that one I was asked to do. My ex-husband got this. He said, I got a message that you should create a glyph called I intend. And I thought, well, and so I asked, I thought, am I supposed to create this glyph called I intend? What is this all about? And they said they wanted me to create a glyph where people could put their own intentions, that I intend for world peace and harmony. And then you add the rest yourself, how you see what you want for the world, like the end of hunger or a loving home for every child, or just what you are intending to bring more peace and harmony, an end to war, or you decide what you intend. And when you use this, and you can again put this one outside, get together with your friends and use this, you have all the power of all those beings who were there when I empowered this glyph. You have every being, Jesus, Mary, Buddha, Saint Germain, the whole family, all the powers of heaven were there when I empowered this glyph. And they will be behind you when you send this energy out. You are the conduit. And as much as you believe in your power, all that energy of all these beings will be right behind you. Now, Lauren asked me about this one earlier. I created this one for Soul Rescue. A few years ago, my first husband committed suicide. He was an unfortunate soul who never could overcome alcoholism. And at the age of 71, he killed himself. And I was riding back on a shuttle bus from Sedona to the airport in Phoenix. And I looked up and I saw this strange cloud formation, and it wasn't chemtrails, and I saw 2 V's with a line through, and then this line on top, and I thought, and what the thought that came to me was some kind of double victory, and I don't know what that meant. But I asked when I got back, can I do anything for, his name was Robin Carlson. Can I do anything for him? And I was told yes, and create this glyph, and then put the picture, if you know anybody who is in a tragedy or anywhere you think if they don't need your help, nothing will happen. But it will appoint a team of spirits to work with that soul to help them move forward in their next life and remove whatever is holding them back, and even remove from the earth any trauma that was created by that incident.
And I think this is the only glyph that has the background color. Very special.
Yes, of course I'm right. It is. It had to be for the type of.
Yeah.
This is to remove the diabetic markers, and I was given that image. At first, someone asked me, have you got with anything for diabetes? And I tend to stay away from that because diabetes diet can control that. It can resolve that if it's diabetes type 2. But then I was told, no, do make one for diabetes because it would remove the diabetic markers. Some people may come into this world, and maybe they have a hereditary tendency to be diabetic, and they'll be a diabetic even though they follow a reasonable diet. So this will remove those markers. Will it work for diabetes, the number 1? I think it might, and I think it's certainly worth a try.
Certainly worth a try, and you know, definitely help balancing out the blood sugar levels and the frailty in some of those episodes with reactions, maybe fewer reactions. Worth a try.
This is an interesting one. I had someone I knew, a couple, where she said her husband had Alzheimer's, and she gave him a test which is supposed to be rather foolproof but quite simple. Is you ask the person to draw the picture of a clock on the quarter hour, and if they cannot draw anything that looks like a clock, they definitely have Alzheimer's. This was what I was told. And she said he drew a piece of paper that didn't look anything like a clock. It had numbers all over it. And so she purchased a wet cell battery appliance that was recommended by Edgar Cayce. And so she used it for some months, and she saw a lot of improvement. After a while, she had him do the clock, and it looked more like a clock. After over a year of using it, he drew a perfect clock, and other people were noticing the improvement that he had experienced. So I asked, and I had gone to visit them, and I thought the man was doing excellent. So I asked, can this be emulated? The wet cell battery is expensive and it is tedious. You have to hook yourself up to an apparatus every day. You have to have different solutions. So I said, can we do this? And I was told, yes, it can be done. So this is to emulate the performance of that wet cell battery that Edgar Cayce had recommended. And you would use this, if you were using a wet cell battery, you would use it 30 minutes every day. And you would have to be consistent. But it doesn't necessarily have to be for Alzheimer's. It could be for many things. I tested myself, and I was told it would help me.
Very interesting. So then would you pile this with this one with the one that you used for the brain?
Yeah, I would. I did not use that on my dog. I don't think I thought of it at that time. But yeah, I would do that. But I would, like again, I would be consistent, and I would put that one on the solar plexus. The solar plexus is Grand Central Station, and when in doubt, try the solar plexus, and then try other places from there, depending upon what you're working on. That's for the yellow jacket. And again, that's just like the one with the wasp. And I put that on a nest. The thing about yellow jackets, I think that would be best as a deterrent. Yellow jackets are determined that they will stay and take care of their young. So what happens when I used it, the main part of the nest, most of them moved, but there was a skeleton crew that stayed and hung in and took care of their babies. And yellow jackets, if anybody's familiar, Lauren, do you have those out in Colorado?
We have more wasps, but very often we'll get some yellow jackets. They're mainly wasps.
Oh, okay. Well, yellow jackets are deadly because if you wander into a nest somehow, they will attack in force. Many people will be allergic to a wasp bite or a yellow jacket bite that could be deadly for them. But with yellow jackets, they come all out at you and they attack in force, and it's not unusual for a yard worker or someone to get 20 or 30 bites before they can get away. And that has killed many people. So in the guides, when I talk to the guides and they say be kind, it's maybe difficult for us to understand being kind to something that is so deadly. But yellow jackets do serve, and wasps, they serve a purpose. They have a value to them. So it's a mistake to think that, again, not go in with the kill, 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 and think about it before we try to wipe them all out.
Yes, nice. Now, would you use this particular glyph if you got stung? Or there's other insect?
No, no. There's one in book 1. Well, let me tell you what happened with it. I got bit by one just this last summer. And we were at the land across the road, and I got in the car and went over to my property, and I could feel this paint, this stuff going up my arms. And so I got back to the house, and by the time I was there, my tongue had started to swell. And I thought, as long as I can breathe, I'm okay. As long as I can breathe, I'm okay. And so I grabbed some glyphs, and I was putting them on different parts of my body. And I thought, why aren't these glyphs working? And I meant to grab the ones from book 1 for insect bites, and I grabbed the wrong one. I grabbed the one for parasites. And when I realized it, then I switched, and I grabbed the one for the insect bites. And I put one behind my ear, and my tongue had swelled up so it filled my whole mouth inside. I put them under my ear, and immediately it started going down. And I put them on my solar plexus and I was amazed how quick it responded for me. But now, when I go out, I keep them in the car. I keep one in my wallet. I have one at the chapel. I'll try to carry one in my pocket. I'll laminate one, because now I realize that for me, these insects are so deadly.
Wow, that's an amazing story. Okay.
This is another, every one of these has got some interesting story. I have in my house a piece of equipment called a Beitar. It is like a glorified big massage table, and it has a speaker for every chakra, and under the feet, even the foot chakra and behind the knees. And the idea is that you play music. It's got 2 CD players attached to it, and you play music, and it will send whatever you're playing through the body. And so a very psychic friend came to visit, and she looked at it, and she said, "This is missing the harmonics in green." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "I don't know what I'm talking about. That's what my guide said. It's missing the harmonics in green." So I created this glyph and taped them to every one of the speakers. And as time went by, I thought, well, I don't see any difference, and I got rid of this. I took it out of what's called the glyph gallery. I removed it completely. And then one of the people that all the board members have the right to use a whole glyph gallery, and this woman was a psychic surgeon, and she called me and she says, "What happened to the harmonics of green?" She said, "My clients need that." And I thought, oh my gosh, what have I done? So I asked, this is where I need to learn to ask first, and I said, "Is this have some valid use?" And I said, yeah. I was told yes. Some people are missing their harmonics in green. I have no idea about any more than that, but all I can say is use it and try it. If nothing, it can't do any harm. But apparently there are frequencies that some people are missing that are causing them a problem. This is the one for regeneration. And this has a whole paragraph of programming. I don't know if you would want me to big paragraph. All the things that it would help you in regenerating your body. And I asked, I said, is this really, can this really do it? And I was told, yes, use consistently, this could regenerate you. Again, your mind is the thing that's in control. If you see and believe you are aging, that will be the control. You have to let go. You have to understand that aging is a lie we brought into. We have been programmed to age, and we have to give up that belief. And we've been looking at all the pictures of wrinkled people and thinking, well, after 40, patch, back, patch, all this stuff, death and taxes. Give up all that belief, and you need to give that up, or it's not going to work.
So then this is a good time to bring up some questions and talk a little bit about how we would use these and pile them up on each other, sleep with them, wear them in our clothing. How would we do that? And then we would use our intuition on which glyphs we would use, and we could stack them in any order. There's just questions coming in on
right. You could, again, I have, at one point the Syrians told me that just use 2 or 3 glyphs, but I've used as many as 5. When I went through my divorce, I piled 5 of them on top of each other, the one for fear, the one for anger, the one for sadness, and stuck them on my solar plexus, and I was amazed at the relief I felt. Even though the divorce was something that needed to happen, it's always very painful. Even when you want the divorce, it's very painful. And so I will put 5, stack 5 on top and wrap them in that cotton cloth and put them behind my heart chakra. But I also use them remotely. I will put what I want to be done, like I was using one for my eye to resolve an eye issue, and I wrote on there what I wanted it to do, and then I put it on a piece of paper, and I put that on a glyph, and I set it on a bookcase, and I could feel it working on my eye. But one thing I suggest when using them remotely, give it a time. Give it, say, do this for 30 days, or do this for 2 weeks, or whatever you want. Just try to stay away from it indefinitely. Just give it time and then go back and reprogram it again. You also could use a surrogate, also a teddy bear or something. Okay, this one is for accessing the 8th chakra, where we have a lot of memories and different things that we could be helpful in this life. And again, this is one where helping us move forward, and when I would lay quietly and put it between my hands, I could feel it doing something. So it does have power to it, and I would suggest using it every once in a while. I think that you can use a glyph and it will do so much, but then as you remove more layers, especially as you work with the glyphs in the first book to remove the emotional burden, then use it again to get further and further along. Just like in one of the first books, there's things to restore your memory. Well, I didn't wake up the next morning suddenly remembering all my past lives, but I can say now, after using it repeatedly, I remember many glimpses of many of my past lives, and I don't need to know details. I just want to get the information I need to help me in this life.
Interesting. Okay, so past life work with the glyphs.
This is one, I did not intend to put this in the book. I had, again, I get issues that I have to resolve. I thought I had appendicitis, and one of the only times I went for medical treatment, I went up to the hospital, and they did a, what is it? What would it be where they put you in this thing to take an X-ray of your, is that a CAT scan or is that an MRI? I don't know the difference. But anyway, what they told me I had, pardon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not certain. I believe it's
they told me I had accumulated stagnated feces in the colon, And so I said, oh, well, I need a colonic. And I thought, oh, no, they're not going to admit to that because that's not on their schedule. So I went ahead and had a series of colonics and so forth. And it did not do anything. And so I felt like, what's going on? You see, it can't work if I've got to do something. And this was a job I had to do, is I created this glyph. And what this glyph will do is actually, you'll feel it kind of vibrating your intestines or colon a certain amount. And when you use this, you want to make sure you're going to be near a bathroom the next day. But altogether, it worked. And then so I wasn't going to use it because I thought it was just kind of a personal, embarrassing issue. And I was still, no, put it in the book, put it in the book. A lot of people have that issue or that problem. So anyway, that's what it is.
The colon cleanse. All right.
And this is one, I've always had these digestive issues, and I was speaking with Archangel Metatron, and I said, is there something in my past life that is causing me these problems, why I have these digestive problems? And he said, yes, there was, and that he could remove it. And so I thought, and I didn't know this was possible. I thought the Akashic Records were always, you're stuck with whatever's there. It's a book that's written, and it's never going to change. That's not so. Things can be removed. You can ask to have things removed. And you could even use this to try to help someone else with the permission of their soul. If you have someone who you love or a family member who has issues and that you think that it might be helpful, that they actually, Archangel Metatron went in and he said, yes, there are issues I can remove. There are things in a past life I can remove. And that came as a big surprise to me. So I created this if you have issues, it's certainly worth a try to see if there's something in a past life that could be removed. And when you talk to to either Archangel Metatron or the keepers of the Akashic Records, just know they hear you and believe that they hear you. And there are so many out there who are willing to help you, and Archangel Metatron will be happy to help you. They are on our side, and they will help you, and they're not trying to hold you up for anything. They're just, all you have to do is ask. That's the whole thing. You just have to ask. This is Wonder Water. I had read on an email someone sent to me that someone had this water that you could pour it into another body of water and it would purify that water. So you could pour it into a lake and it would go on and purify. And so then I think what happened is this person turned it over to the Air Force, to thinking that he was doing the right thing, and never heard about anything about it again. So I asked, I said, is there such a thing? Can we have such a thing as water that would purify other water? And I got absolutely, and go ahead and create one. And I was told exactly what to write in there. So I created this, and I have a large pond on my property. And I was told to leave a container of water. I had a quart glass jar of water, and I put this on the glyph, and I was told to leave it there for 5 days, which I did. Then I took it down to the pond, and I walked around the pond and poured a little bit in. And I went doing this for about a month or 6 weeks, and I took pictures, and I could see the difference in people that were coming over here and working for me. They would say, boy, your pond is looking better. And so it did make a difference. Of course, I had critters living there, so it wasn't going to be crystal clear. But it was gradually getting clear. This will also remove any radioactive matter from frequencies from the water.
Well, then that tells us how we can use this. And it would be a great idea to use this in ceremony and pour the water into
Right.
rivers and streams and lakes and ponds, because that will go out.
Absolutely. Great idea.
Yeah, this is a
Mm-hmm.
wonderful one, Jean.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important.
Very,
Gosh, I love that one.
very powerful. Right. Right. I think we looked at this one some time ago when I first created it. I was told to create this one, and this was to eliminate GMO crops. And it's not, there was a lot of question about that. People would say, oh, should we be doing that? You know, I'm not sure that we should do that. So it's not, what we will do, it pulls out the energy, any energy that is not in harmony with our bodies and the bodies of animals. And it would purify the land the crops are growing on. And it would elevate the consciousness of all involved. So again, someone questioned that, and after I finished talking with her on the phone, I was reminded Jesus withered the fig tree. He didn't try to elevate the consciousness. He didn't, you know, he withered the fig tree. And that's exactly what, remember he said, all these things and more we can do. We are withering plants that are harmful to the body. They're harmful to the earth because their purpose is so they can spray chemicals on the earth. So this is a powerful one that you could put on that. Let's say you had somebody who is growing GMO crops, and we do down the road. I can see, you can tell corn, it looks artificial. Or you could put it on a page of them on a plat of land and intend that it take care of all the GMO crops that are growing in that area.
So
But it's one thing we can do.
okay, so that would that mean that it would, okay, so say that again, maybe, that it would take the negative effects of that crop, or that crop probably would not come to fruition.
It would pull the energy out of the crops. And so after 47 of us got together on a webinar, and this was at a time when the south and southern part of the world was growing crops. And of course I said, don't think about, is it working? Don't think about, just do it and believe in your power. And months later, I read something on the internet about South Africa experiencing unexplained failures of GMO crops.
Wow.
So I have no doubt we were affecting that.
Oh, goodness, that's wonderful. Okay. These stories are total confirmation.
This was one I did to heal the appendix. I created that thinking that I had appendicitis with that earlier incident. And so then I shelved it. And then when I was getting ready to put the book together, I was told to add that to it because it will help an inflamed appendix. It will help clean that out. However, we need to exercise caution when there's any chance it's ruptured. You would want to seek help. But I would also use, at the same time I use this one, I would use the one from book 1, Glyphs2, to kill any bacteria at the same time. Oh, this one is interesting. I was empowering some glyphs, and I had the whole gang again from Tom Kenyon's Powers of Heaven. And so then after each time when I'm finished with the ceremony, I would ask, is there anything that you would like to talk to me about or tell me or discuss with me? And so I was told by them to create a glyph that would repel evil. And in the greed and the lust and all of the negative things. And I was given that image of, I don't know if you'd call it a broken arrow or a crooked arrow, but somehow it would help. So my thought was with it, using it, is like you could put it, let's say you wanted to put all the names of the House of Representatives, print them out on a piece of paper and put it on there. You cannot overcome somebody's free will, but you might be able to resolve anybody who could be affected by this, to repel the greed and the evil that is so predominant, that is causing problems in this country, or every country. Everybody's got issues with with different people, and even a person. So it's unlimited. Just use your imagination on this one, but repelling evil.
Well, I've got a couple of things for Congress and all that good stuff. Wonderful, Jean. There could be some jokes that come from this one. All right.
Right. You might have neighbors that you might put it on your window facing your neighbors. Now this one, I was told, this is for scalar energy. I was told that one does not need a piece of equipment to project scalar energy, that we have the power to project scalar energy with, on our own. And I was guided to create this glyph, and it's a little different than some well-known person, the scalar energy, because one of the things it has in there is to balance all and heal all the meridians, any meridian problems. And I have an interesting issue with myself. I will get problems with my gallbladder meridian as soon as I think anything about myself, like I should have, why didn't I do it, or something where I'm putting myself down a little bit. It will immediately affect my gallbladder meridian, and I will get a headache across my forehead. And so I thought, if this glyph will work, when it works, then I would just say, and I could feel it working. As soon as I would put out that negative thought, I would immediately feel the glyph affecting which goes around the outside of the ears, your gallbladder meridian. And so I would feel it working on that, the outside, well, of the rest of the meridian as well, but that would be the most noticeable. So it will work. It describes what it will kill: any bacteria, it will kill any virus. You have to tell it where to go and what to do if you have a particular person you're sending it to. And I would like to get feedback on this one too, because it is very powerful. And I would like to find out how people are using it. Use your imagination.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. So, again, it's with the intention of moving the scalar energy for a purpose. You couldn't just,
right.
Would you just use it just for just having scalar energy? No, you'd want to direct it.
Right.
Saying, okay.
It clears the meridians, cleanses the body of toxins, removes negative karma, resolve emotional issues, and sever any attachment to dark energies.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Beautiful.
Right. And this one I did, there was a book written by Alex Lloyd where he sends energy to certain parts of the body, and it can be powerful, but it can also be tedious. I'm not fond of sitting there holding my hands over to a certain part of the body and moving them around, and I'm not a patient person. That's why I'm given the glyphs rather than sitting and doing Reiki or something, because I would rather the glyphs do the work and let me go do something else. And this one here will send energy to different points on the body, just like Alex Lloyd's, only they gave me one more. They gave me a 1-2 that would go to under the arm. And so I thought, I had a page of them I printed out, and I thought, well, I wonder how this works. And I put it between my hands, and I got, oh my gosh, it had such energy. Oh wow, did it have the energy. So you just have to decide where you want that energy to go. This is kind of your choice. If you wanted to resolve a certain issue, again, you're going to have to let go of the belief you've got that problem. You've got to let the thing do its work. and it won't overcome somebody's path. And I did put my other dog's name on there, even though he didn't ask me to have a name on there. But after he died, I just felt like I had to honor my last dog, Roscoe. So I named that one after my sweetheart, Roscoe, my hound.
Oh, sweet. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of the glyphs for book 3. And what I'd like to do is we can take some questions now, and I can also stream and roll through some of the glyphs in the earlier books so that people can see what those are if they haven't seen those. So let's take some questions then. We do have some coming up. Do you have okay, there's a couple questions on the water glyph. And so some says, can you drink the glyph? Can you charge the water with glyphs? And do you have a glyph that will purify tap water?
This will purify tap water, definitely. This will purify any water. That is the whole intention. And I added as a secondary thought, I said to them, can I make it do healing too? And then they said, yeah, you could do that. And they said, well, now, then they said, well, now what do you want this glyph to do? And I thought, well, I want it to do everything. So it does have some healing ability. You can certainly drink it. But I guess they have one idea, and I was trying to run forward with my idea. But yes, it does have some healing ability.
So, okay, let's take that question a little further. I guess it's each of our own judgment, but would you go to a third world country where you know the water, like Mexico? Would you take it to Mexico and drink the tap water? Again, it does, I can see where belief comes into this.
Well, again, you have to take that glyph and have the water sitting on it for 5 days. I don't know, you would want to, if you were living there, that might be feasible. If you were just visiting there for a short time, you might be better off to just take that drop of iodine and put it in. So now that one there is to remove sadness. And I encourage people when they have that book,
this is book 1.
Emotional Healing Glyphs, book 1. This is Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, to use this frequently because it removes layers. It's like an onion, where you just remove layer after layer, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time to keep removing those layers, and underneath, way at the center, is who you really are. And when I started using these glyphs, I had no clue who I was and no clue about why I was here. And the more I used them, all of a sudden it's like the light came on and the door opened, and all of a sudden now I have no doubt why I'm here and what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. So there are some glyphs that are missing numbers. Is that intentional, or are we missing some glyphs?
No, we probably have them all there. But the thing was, my ex-husband, he created the glyph gallery. He is the one who, and bless his soul, because he just really got me on track. I was just doing them on little 3x5 cards. It was a total mess. He said, you can't do it that way. You've got to get organized. And he put them in the computer, and he created the glyph gallery, and he numbered them as we went along. And then when I started the first book, I said, well, I have to go back and number them from 1 to 30. And he said, I can't do that. He said, I've got this all programmed. I said, so I thought, okay, they're just going to have to accept the fact that there are some that just didn't work out. There were some glyphs that didn't work out, and I just removed them, or I created them for a person who needed some particular thing. And so that's why you will see the numbers may not be, they'll be what looks like numbers are missing. Oftentimes they're in one of the other books, because in the first book I just picked what I thought were the 30 most important ones.
Mm-hmm. And again, it's almost like you want to start with that first book. It's a progression, so if you don't have those, you will want to check those out as well. Okay, what about, here's a question coming in, what about macular degeneration? What other glyphs besides the eye would you use?
I had read, now sometimes we need to not try to think of just one thing to do, and one thing about the glyphs is you can use them with any other modality. And I can remember reading from some woman said she healed her macular degeneration eating a cup of kale every day. And I think diet is so important. There are certain elements in food, in healthy, organic, natural food that are healing. And so other than the eye one, I would use the detoxification one certainly, but diet and exercise are so important, very important. And I stress that in the book. There's about 12, 14 pages of text. Do not just skip over reading that text. I have people write me and call me and say, they'll ask me questions. I said, did you read the book? Well, no, I haven't read that yet. Well, what's in there is important, very important. And I cannot stress that enough, how important diet and exercise are.
What about insomnia and interruptive sleep patterns?
The most important thing, first of all, be using those glyphs to remove the emotional things, because a lot of what keeps us awake is what's going through our mind. And one of the things in this book has a couple of pages on the practice of Ho'oponopono. I'm not saying that. Ho'oponopono.
Ho'oponopono. You
and right. And that will help a lot too, is because it will stop you from all that chatter that's going on in your mind. But with insomnia, one of the biggest problems is lack of exercise. When you have a day where you really work hard, when you have just worked till you're just so, when you lay down, you are out. I mean, you don't have to worry about falling to sleep when you've really worked hard. So a lot of times, we cannot just sit there in front of the TV or be a couch potato, whatever it is, and expect to sleep well. We need to use up that energy. That excess energy that is not being used is going to keep us awake. So establish a regular exercise routine and use the emotional healing glyphs. And there is one for anxiety in the first book that will be helpful. It's not going to knock you out, but you really don't want that anyway. You want it to be natural. And sometimes I hear other little remedies like, a little bit of apple cider vinegar and a teaspoon of honey and some warm water. So there's other things that you can try.
What about, are there some glyphs that you suggest daily to maintain our bodies and souls?
I use whatever one I feel like using at the time. And so I don't know that I used any particular one daily unless it's an issue I'm working on.
Okay. This is from Debbie, what would I use for hunger? I am always hungry, even 5 minutes after eating.
Well, I'm going to tell you the first thing that came into my mind is that there's a tapeworm there. Unless you have, or I don't know what your weight is. If your weight is normal to thin, then I would use that parasite glyph on your solar plexus. If your weight is normal to heavy, then the cause of obesity is inner sadness. People are trying to satisfy a need that you're trying to make yourself feel better by eating. And of course, when the food is gone, the people still need. They're trying to make themselves, they're trying to console themselves. That's why they call it comfort food. So the emotional healing glyphs are the ones to help with that, never having enough. And oftentimes there's a past life of starvation that may play a part in that too. So you want to release anything that came from a past life. There's one for releasing vows in book 1, and that may be helpful, or releasing trauma from past lives.
Okay.
This one here, the one for the eye, that healed my ex-husband of both glaucoma and cataracts.
And cataracts. Wow.
And the one for the heart,
Yeah.
heart healed me of a heart problem.
And so book 2 has the more of the physical systems. And Elizabeth has a question about healing bones, ligaments, and regenerating muscles. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've got 2 for that. And in book 1, there's one, I think it's 72 or 73, and for healing tissue, joints, and cartilage, and that is really powerful. Oh, I love that one. And I had one woman who healed a not carpal tunnel, it was on the shoulder.
Rotator cuff?
Rotator cuff, yes, rotator cuff. She healed that overnight. She had been working, she injured herself at work and was getting physical therapy for 6 weeks, and they dismissed her to go back to work. And she was, but she was still in pain. And so she got the book and she used that glyph, and it worked so rapidly, she felt like, she didn't say that they felt she was pretending, but at the physical therapy they thought, wow, maybe she was just faking this. That's what she thought, that she felt that they were thinking that, but it just healed it overnight. And I've had tremendous results with that, and it's great for painful knees. That one too. That one, and the one for the bones, and also 73 for tissue repair. It is great for painful knees, but if you start having a problem with your knees, again, this is dietary. It's emotional and it's dietary. And I encourage everybody to have Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Body, because that will kind of give you a clue as to what the emotional thing is behind it. Oh, now that one, stop at that one. That one is so good. I have reviews on Amazon from people, I don't know who they are, saying that they've used that heart glyph and it was successful. I think there are 3 reviews on Amazon saying the results that they had. I was getting chest pain so bad that I thought I would have to call 911, which I don't know why I would do that, because I certainly don't want to go through what they would put me through in a hospital. Mm-hmm. But I was told by a couple of psychics, that I had a problem with my heart. And so I used that glyph, and I never had a problem again, but I used it regularly. The pains never came back again. A mitral valve problem, prolapse problem disappeared. So I strongly encourage anybody to try that. And I think it would be tremendous to be able to try it. So, little tiny children are coming in with heart problems. So it certainly is worth a try. Powerful glyph. Powerful.
Yes. And okay, what about bone spurs?
I would use glyph number 20, that one, the bone that you just had a little while ago. I would definitely try that. That one, yes, I would try that. Use that for bone spurs. Again, let me know, people, how they work. If it doesn't, I want to know just as much if something does not work, as long as it's not, a person is trying it regularly and getting out of the way. It's important to get out of the way. And sometimes people say you have to believe in them for them to work. But they work really great on dogs and cats, which shows they don't believe in anything. But on the other hand, they don't doubt. They're not skeptics. They're not thinking, oh, is this working? Why don't I feel anything? Or how is it, why isn't it working yet? Expectations can get in the way too. Just use it and let it go, and say, or best yet, say, I believe this is working, and that's it. That's one's for muscle. Somebody asked a while ago for muscle restoration. Mm. That should be able to help a lot of muscle-related diseases.
I had my dog got hit by a car, and so when she was in the hospital, we took a page, I think it was the bone and muscle restoration. And then I spoke with you, and you also said tissue repair, and that was good. But what I did is I took these, and also fear and anxiety from that accident. I used those as well. And I just taped them to her collar, and it seemed to really help. So let's...
Again, I would consider using them use them with other things too. Don't be afraid to mix them and use Bach flower remedy, rescue remedy.
Oh yeah, the rescue remedy, we did that too for her. Anything for addiction? How about addiction, someone asks?
There again, go back to the first book with all the emotional healing. And if it's a person themselves, that's fine, and they just keep cycling through the emotional healing. And I would also, but if you're doing it for someone else, you can do it remotely. I just had someone from our church who had a family member that had an addiction, and I said, glyph number 50 from the first book, which is called Reaching Out. And what that will do is it will cycle through a different thing every day. One day it will remove the fear, one day it will remove the anger, one will remove the sadness. And it would go on for 6 weeks. If they need more time, you go ahead and tell the glyph. Now remember, the glyph has consciousness, and you can actually talk to it. And you can get it if you think you'd like this glyph to do some particular thing and you're not sure that, just tell it, this is what I would like you to do, and I intend you do it. And believe in your power for it to happen. You have the power.
So continue with that, because Elizabeth asks a question. I have a sister with a cataract. Her doctor is advising surgery, but she has fear about it. Will the eye glyph help if she has any skepticism about it?
Well, certainly the skepticism is going to get in the way. But I would use that, and what I would also use, again, another remedy, and you can buy it at Amazon. There's a Dr. Christopher drops. I have somebody who asked me about this, and he's using the glyph, and he's also ordered the Dr. Christopher drops from Amazon. It's only about $10 or $11. And using the two things like that, how could you go wrong? And I certainly would try that for a couple of months before I would let anybody operate on my eye.
Okay, try it for a couple of months. And you know, did we talk about this last time in our healing conversation? I've heard castor oil as well for cataracts.
Yes, yes, I do believe a drop every night before you go to bed. Is that what I think?
Yes, interesting, because you can't really see that well. But
right. Well, I think I would try, and I would research that on the internet, and I would just type in castor oil for cataracts and see what different things come up. A lot of good information out there if we're careful.
yeah, lots of natural stuff. Okay. All right, more questions. Does the reaching out glyph work on its own, or do you have to program it with the other glyphs?
No, it is programmed already to go through the glyphs. It will say do glyph so number 3, number 4, number 6, number 8. It will know what to do. It's programmed to work on its own. And then, like I said, after 6 weeks, you tell it, go ahead and start again.
What about teenage skin acne? Any glyphs?
Well, yes. First of all, diet, diet, diet. I can remember in the glyph number 10 of the first book, it will resolve a blemish, the bacteria. You put that glyph on at night, and it will kill any bacteria in that blemish on the skin. But I can remember someone who's doing raw food, and the mother, everybody in the family was sick, so she threw out all the processed food, and all they had was raw food in the house. And of course, the kids were really very upset. You know, they said they weren't going to eat that, and then in the middle of the night, they raided the refrigerator, and there were all the banana skins and orange peelings and everything. And she was very strict about it. But the kids later on wrote a book about it and said they noticed that young boy had a skin problem, and it went away from eating all this raw food. So diet is so important. And not a diet meaning what they eat. What you eat is so important.
What about clearing collective survival and fear issues that we are sensitive to feeling? This is from Christy.
There are at least 3 or 4 glyphs in the first book that will heal different fears and issues. I used to be controlled by fear, and now I live in the middle of 100 acres, and I don't fear. I'm not worried about it at all. I would never have been able to do that years ago. So you just start using the glyphs to remove fear from the first book.
And someone asks about eye floaters. Can the vision glyph work for that? What are eye floaters?
Oh, like little images, little tiny things that are kind of in our vision. They should not be obscuring it, but they can be annoying, and it is programmed to do that. And now that I used to have them, and now that I realize I don't think I have them anymore. But it's in the program for the eye.
It's in the program for the eye?
Right.
Interesting. So then you don't see those anymore. You mean like little black? I guess I've seen them when I'm snorkeling.
Little specks. Yeah, little specks. Right. That kind of just, they're really not, they seem to be, they call them floaters, but I don't think they do float. I think they're very stable, but it's just us that are moving our eye around.
And we can get rid of those. Okay. Excellent. All right. Elizabeth has a question. Do you have glyphs that will clear a room of disharmonic energies?
Yes, there is. It's in book number 1. We'll remove entities, and it tells you how to remove them from yourself too.
Okay.
Right. Oh, and that's had some great stories too. I wish I'd all the stories that go with these. Well, I'll tell one story. Someone had a cat that started urinating on the owner's bed, and she loved her cat and didn't want to get rid of it. But a friend took a picture, and there was all this dark energy in the picture. Mm-hmm. And so they put 5. They put 1 in each corner of the room of this glyph and 1 in the center of the room. And after a while, the dark energy was gone, and the cat was happy. And what they found later from somebody who asked, they said that the entities were antagonizing the cat.
Okay, that's a little freaky, a little frightening.
Right.
I remember the first time I heard about entities, I was blown away. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will any of the tree healing glyphs work well for oak wilt?
I would tell the glyph to do that. And I'd forgotten, that's right, up in the northern part of the country, I can remember they did have oak wilt. I would just go ahead and, like you're programming it, yes, tell it to do that. And I would be curious, I really probably should create a lot of these, like the one that killed the chestnut trees. And what I understand is there are still American chestnut trees that will come up from the root. And I think that it easily could be healed with a glyph. And I think the oak wilt can be healed with a glyph. That's probably something that I should create.
Is there a glyph?
Tell that person, right? No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Is there a glyph for intuition building?
Practice, practice, practice. Believe in yourself. Many times, okay, you meet someone and you get an immediate thing like, uh-oh, this doesn't feel good. And that's your intuition. So many times we second guess, we think, oh, well, I'm just imagining this. No, you're not imagining anything. Your first thought is your intuition. and you have more use of it, more ability than you realize. It's our doubts that causes the problem. Your first thought, and you get to the point where you can take a bottle of a homeopathic and you immediately get the number 8, 9, or whatever, how many drops you need. And it will just, the more you use it and the more you trust it, you have to learn to trust your intuition. And the more you trust it, the better it will work. Lauren, did I lose you?
Sorry, I was on mute as I asked the last question. Debbie says, Debbie says, I have a grandson who does not like to eat much with a poor diet. Is there any glyph to assist in extending his palate for healthy food?
I'm trying to think what glyph I would use. I know my feeling on that. Oftentimes children who have eating problems are being allowed to have food they shouldn't have at the wrong times. And I feel like giving them a healthy snacks and just like carrot sticks and this and that, give them healthy options, and that's all. No potato chips, no snacks, no candy, get rid of the idea of dessert, and we have to get back, and none of this bribing. If you don't eat it, you can't have any dessert. We have to back away and think about when a wild animal, the mother lion, she goes and she kills her prey, and she puts it down in front of her babies, and they eat. They eat or they go hungry and they die. That's it. And she doesn't say, oh, if you don't eat that, you won't get any dessert. And we humans, we get into this game, and it just really is a big mistake. So I would say the emotional healing glyphs, but we need to work on ourselves. We're usually the ones who are the problem with eating problems.
Okay. We have another question coming in. I have 2 skin eruptions on my face which may have started with bacteria. They are not pimples, more raised. I've been avoiding seeing a doctor because of bad experiences. I've tried essential oils and botanicals, but the healing has been very slow. Should I try the bacteria glyph? These are near my eyes, so I am concerned.
I would certainly use the bacteria glyph. I would also go and use the skin one that's in the second book.
The skin one in the second book, okay.
And if there's any chance it could be malignant, I would use a malignancy one. I don't know what it looks like, but got nothing to lose there, but I would use the skin one, and as well as the bacteria. If it's tender, it's bacteria.
Tender is bacteria. Okay.
That has had some real successes with this one, the malignant growths.
This is in
three cases of breast problems have been resolved with this glyph. One young man in the Philippines got the book for his mother, and she used it, and within about a few weeks she went to the doctor. He said that that there was no cancer there.
Oh, these are just amazing stories, and they're coming from us and from using these. And I know the FDA wouldn't like us making any claims, but it is
the power.
Yeah.
The power is just prayer. It's all prayer. That's what I say, prayer.
We have a question. Can you put these under your mattress?
Under your mattress, or under your I wouldn't put them under the mattress. You might be under your mattress pad, but not under the mattress. That's quite a bit of stuff between you and the air. You could just if you were using it, you may as well just do them remotely. I wonder if she meant mattress pad.
I wonder. I usually stick some in my pillowcase and put them under my pillow.
Right, I've done that too.
Can glyphs erase scars?
Yes, the one for the skin is programmed to erase scars, and the one for the face is also programmed to erase scars. It may take time, and again, you've got to stop seeing. If you're thinking, oh, it's still there, it's still there, it's still there, then you're getting in the way.
What glyph would one use for severe pain?
You're going to have to go to the cause of the pain. If it's a joint problem, you would use the one for joints. It would depend on what's causing the pain.
Isn't it funny that pain is the issues that we need to look at in our life? Okay. All right, well, here's one. Christy says, my daughter would like to grow taller.
I don't have an answer. It doesn't say how old she is.
Okay.
I have that one I can't help
15.
you with.
She's
I don't
15.
know. 15?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I don't know what's good. Certainly a healthy diet. I don't know a glyph is going to help, but I would say a balanced diet and some supplements, and see it in her mind. We create our bodies with our mind. See yourself as taller. Don't see yourself as too short.
Okay. What glyph for prolapsed pelvic floor, urinary bladder, or colon?
There's one for the female reproductive system. We'd use that one. There's one for the bladder in the urinary tract in the second book. These are in the second book. And the third one, there's one for candida and also for the intestine. And that one is, that is powerful. That I'm willing to bet money that is the most powerful thing for candida. And what happened with me, I had candida that was systemic. It was even in the brain. And it can happen that way. And so I took that, like I said, I get things because I have to try them out. When I woke up in the morning, I took that page of glyphs and I laid them between my hands and I laid on top of it, and I could feel the energy going right down my arms, and right up into my brain. I could feel it working in my brain, and it gave me a headache while it was working. But as soon as I let go of the glyph, the headache went away. But sometime later, when a woman was dowsing, I said, well, how about my candida? She says, I'm not getting that you have any candida. And to be able to just rid yourself of candida, and of course you do want to follow a diet that will help you. But to get rid of it that easily, wow, that is amazing. I mean, the treatment for candida, oh, yuck. Great glyph, great.
Yeah, lots of good questions and interaction this afternoon. What glyph for Hashimoto's thyroiditis? I just brought your package and can't wait to start on them. Thank you. Thyroiditis. Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Again, we need to realize that all medical problems have an emotional problem as part of it. And the thyroid is so sensitive to these emotional problems. You want to use all of the emotional healing glyphs and clean up your diet. Eat as much raw fruits and organic fruits and vegetables as possible, and get some exercise. I was told once, most illness can be resolved with diet and exercise. So you need to take care of your body. It's the most precious possession that you have.
Do you have a glyph for courage?
Yes, number 83 in the first book. But that's another one. You use all the emotional healing glyphs. You've got to get rid of the fear and the low self-esteem.
Okay. All right, here's a technical question. Guadalupe says, I am not able to print the full page where there are many glyphs. Please let me know how to do it. Okay. Well, let me bring that up and we can go over that. What I noticed about that, Jean, is because of the PDF book, the book page may not be the same as the print page on your printer. So, do you have a special way, like, so here's the book, and so see it says page 65. This book is right on. This number down here, 65, does match 65 up in the corner there. So, to print this, you would just make sure that this page number down here, it may say 65. You want to make sure that you're printing what says it up here in the top bar. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but then you would come and you would print and just print page 65 out of all of those. This is taking a minute to come in. So you'd go pages,
Right.
that there. She's showing that for Guadalupe. But what I noticed as well is if you're working with the earlier books, it may say 65 down in the lower corner, but if you look up on the page, up in this upper corner, it could say 64 or page 66 of 102. So you just want to make sure that you're printing the right page. Hopefully that's helpful.
Right. I haven't had a problem, so I couldn't help there.
Okay. So let's see, have you ever used your glyphs with the quantum biofeedback device?
No, I have not. Could not help with that one. You there, Lauren?
Yes, thank you. Okay, so more, another, Guadalupe has refined his question and says that it's a printing issue, so maybe it's just tweaking part of your printer. I haven't had an issue, Guadalupe. Sorry about that.
Right.
What to use with lymphoma on a dog?
Lymphoma on a dog. There is a glyph in the second book for the lymphoma. I'm trying to relate to what that is exactly. I don't know the answer for that because I would have to look up what I have to look up is to define the lymphoma exactly for me.
Fatty lymphoma.
Oh, these fatty tumors?
Fatty deposits.
Oh, no, I don't really have an answer for that one, and somebody has asked me that before. They don't seem to harm the dog too much, but I've heard of one getting excessively large that had to be surgically removed. I don't have a glyph for that. I'm afraid I don't.
What about fuzzy brain and short-term memory?
Diet is so key for memory. I asked once what causes people to have a memory problem as they get older, and I got that it was depletion of certain chemicals in the brain, and these could be restored by eating certain foods. And I can remember celery, bananas, and apples were some, and sweet potatoes, and pumpkin, and kumquats. You can find kumquats. And I said, can they be cooked? And I got, no, they had to be raw, which is interesting because we don't usually eat raw pumpkin. But that's what I got, is eating more raw food will definitely help with memory problems. There are supplements for that, too.
By the way, we have word coming in from Margaret that the benign fatty tumor is lipoma, and lymphoma is cancer of the lymph. Okay, and so it seems like it was...
Right, yeah, okay. I was confused by that because I thought, right, okay, that's right. If it was cancer, the malignancy one, but the fatty tumors, no, I don't know.
Okay, are there any glyphs for abundance issues? Maybe some of the emotional ones would help?
Now, well, first you use the emotional ones, and then there is one for abundance in book 1, and it has been very successful, but the biggest block to abundance is fear, so you have to get rid of the fear first, that one. And people have gotten, it's also programmed to give them a type of gift, and what they get depends on their vibration. So if you have an elevated enough vibration, you may get a very nice gift. And one woman told me she got, her husband got a raise even though they were told they wouldn't get one. She had more clients coming in. All kinds of things were coming her way. But this woman did not have a fear issue. So fear is going to stop you there. And I have no problem. I had one incident I will have to tell you about. I got a refund that I was not due from Sears for $500. And so I said, should I give this back to Sears? And I was told, no, I gave you that. All things are of me. There are no exceptions. In other words, God is Sears. God is the power company. God is, if you get your power company gives you a rebate twice, say thank you. So in other words, what I got was say thank you. Now, I could not do that if a cashier gave me the wrong change, but I have gotten money in various ways just to surprise me. And
yeah, that does, I mean, that does bring up a question. It's like, is it, I mean, I guess you just say yes and say thank you. I guess others would have to do that and see if they...
What I felt is I want to be have the greatest integrity. I want to have complete integrity. And so I thought, but we can get carried away on this if God is giving you if you get something from a corporation, like when we bought our land here, we were $7,000 short of being able to purchase the land. And all of a sudden, a check came to me for $7,000, and it was a money market that had already paid me. And so I just took the $7,000, we bought the land, and then the company, it was Value Line, they came and they said, oh, we made a mistake, we sent you that money by mistake. I said, oh, I'm sorry, I will pay you back. Then we started paying them back $300 at a time.
Uh-huh.
So it's all, and we can get hung up on this idea of integrity. Just remember, everything is God. And if you have any thoughts about, ask. Where I asked, and he said, all things are of me. There are no exceptions. So if money comes your way, again, if it's a personal thing, then you have to go with what what you feel you should do.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you're walking down the street and somebody drops their wallet in front of you, I would certainly, you would certainly grab the wallet and chase after them and give them back their wallet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One time I had an extra box of silver show up at my door. This was back in the day when we were buying silver, and that was interesting. But deep down inside, I knew, yeah, this is a mistake. It's not mine, and yeah. It's integrity, and that's what this is about. And so Nikki shares with us that, yeah, she only takes money from God that is gotten honestly. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. But also know that many of us, wouldn't you say, have belief systems set up against money. So there's a lot more to this than meets the eye.
Right.
Yeah.
You can get hung up on that. Where is integrity, and what and defining integrity.
Yeah. Okay. This is the glyph of Mu, and what I love about it, Jean, is that Lemuria is gosh, the motherland of our planet. And the top part of this glyph is the healing glyph that you've created. Talk a little bit about this.
Right.
You actually have a
Well,
stained glass art in your doorway of this glyph.
yes, and that's, yes, right. And I was trying to find something for my chapel, for the windows, some symbols. And I just was thinking about Indian symbols or something. And so I went upstairs where I had some bookcases and a book was lying on the floor. And so I picked it up without looking at it and carefully put it back on the shelf, and I turned around and it fell on the floor again. And I thought, oh, this is the message, this is a fall on the floor book thing. And so I picked it up, and it was called The Sacred Symbols of Mu. And I opened it up, and there it was. And I thought, oh, that's it, that's it. And so then we had it done in stained glass for the chapel. And then when I was getting ready to do some T-shirts for children with AIDS in Africa, I was told to use that symbol.
How would we use this Mu glyph?
I had it embossed. I had it at a T-shirt place, a regular T-shirt and place, not the iron-on kind because they will not last. And put it on where the a tight, snug T-shirt, put it on where the solar plexus is, and one over the back of the heart. And then I'll wear it continuously. If you are treating a serious illness like AIDS, hepatitis, Lyme's disease, this is designed for a disease that mutates and changes, and the energy from the glyph will go after the mutation and whatever change it takes. And then you have to have several T-shirts so that you take one off, you take your shower, and you put one right back on again. So you can throw one in the wash and still have one on in the daytime and the night. But if you were taking medication, you would do that. So it's going to take some discipline. I would say 10 days to 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Really powerful. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. We have one more question, and this is about hair growth. I used to have thick, beautiful hair, which started falling out from extreme stress since I was 19. Now I am 63, finally waking up depression-free, but very self-conscious without my hair. How do I reverse it? Is it hormonal?
It certainly could be, and I don't know the answer exactly to that. I certainly would use the glyphs, especially the female hormone one, or female reproductive one, which has the hormones in there. A lot of the glyphs are designed to balance the hormones. And there's also home remedy type things, and one is rubbing the head with castor oil again.
Castor oil?
That's also another one. But see yourself with hair. Use your mind. Let's not forget, we have the power of our mind that we can change what we wish to change.
Quantum physics is only beginning to prove this. Wonderful, Jean.
Right.
Okay.
Same thing with growing new teeth. I know we can grow new teeth. We just have to overcome the belief that we can't.
We hear from someone, Nikki, in our audience who says hypothyroid. Hypothyroid is often related to head hair loss. All right. Okay. So then that is all of our questions, and I commend you on your book 3. It really is on a deeper level of healing for the planet, and it's with great love that you bring this forth. And thank you, Jean, so much for dedicating your life in service to getting this work out there.
Well, thank you so much, Lauren. I am so honored to be here, and I'm honored to be helping people. This is just, this is my love, this is my life, I'm married to my work. This is just wonderful that I'm able to bring these out, and I am so grateful to everybody who's out there, and I send my love to all of you.
Yes, thank you, Jean. You are living your passion and making a difference in the world. And everyone, thank you for trusting in this and and believing in it. And let us hear your stories. And if you have gotten the Advanced Healer package, good luck in getting this out to the world and exploring new ways to advance this work. Thank you, Jean, and thank you, everyone. Let's see, by the way, in our email of the MP3 for this program and the video, we will send a special upgrade link for books 1 and 2. Actually, what we'll do is the special upgrade of the $99, since you've already paid $44, we'll make it for $65 or whatever that price would be. All right, everyone, thank you, and thank you, Jean. Many blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you, too, for listening and sharing in this space today. We leave you now with music from the universe, literally sacred geometry of music, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com.